And welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting for today, February 9th, 2026. We have Councillor McDonald that sent his regrets, and I think we can get through this. I think we've got a good part of the members in the gallery, so I appreciate you being here for the discussions that's going to be held here today. So I'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
It's moved by Councillor Broad, seconded by Councillor Densham, that the meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry be hereby called to order.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving to the approval of our agenda, Madam Clerk.
It's moved by Councillor Densham, seconded by Councillor Lang, that the agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Any discussions on our agenda as presented? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move into our staff reports. I'd like to welcome Cameron and Phil to the thing, and we'll appreciate hearing your presentation. Go ahead, fellas.
Thank you, Warden, through you. Good morning, and good morning, Council. Good morning, members of the public gathered here today. So the reason we're in the room is we wanted an opportunity to discuss sort of our perspective on some of the tree planting activities that are going on throughout the counties. Our roadside tree planting program is twofold. So there's the beautification trees. Leading into hamlets. I don't believe that's the primary reason we're here today. And then there's the second component, which is the tree planting along county roads intended to serve as windbreaks, also known as living snow fences. Beside me is Phil Duncan. He's our county forester, and we're grateful for the opportunity to present our opinions on the matter. So, the presentation today is going to start off with a staff presentation. Then there'll be an opportunity for questions. Then it will be followed by a presentation from the president of the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture. Their thoughts on the matter are going to be very, very key in leading this discussion, and it's hoping that it's going to be respectful based on fact. So I guess before I turn it over, so thank you again for everybody meeting today, and I'll pass it over to Phil, who will lead the presentation.
Sure. Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss our roadside tree planting program. The presentation that I'll go through today will touch on the history of the program, summary of how the planting occurs, so how we go over site selection, species selection, the planting layout, and we'll also have an opportunity to discuss challenges that we face at the county level, and of course the opportunities to improve the program. The counties are happy to enact further public engagement, and we look forward to engaging with our adjacent landowners to enhance the program and, most importantly, improve the road safety aspect for our county road network and the users. So, as a background, the counties own and maintain 985 kilometers of roadway, and this equates to almost 2,000 lane kilometers of road. Regular maintenance operations are conducted to ensure the public safety and that our right-of-ways are maintained and safe for the public to use. Activities include snow removal, mowing, weed spraying, ditching, brushing, and tree planting. Annually, we plant approximately 0.25% of the total length of the county road network. And this is a picture of one of the first tree planting programs in partnership with the Resource Stewardship Council back from 2004 along County Road 14 in the township of South Stormont. The counties have been planting trees actively for over 60 years along its roadsides. The program has been made possible with many different partners, including the Ministry of Natural Resources, local conservation authorities, and private donors. Pictured here is a high school planting event within the township of South Glengarry along County Road 19, which was led by the Resource Stewardship Council. The program has gone through many iterations. At the time of road construction, both trees and fence were originally installed to delineate property boundaries and assert the county-owned right-of-way. In the late 1980s and in the late 80s and 90s, trees were annually purchased actually by our patrol staff. They would drive all the way up to Peterborough, purchase trees, and would plant them in an effort to replace the trees that had been removed during regular operations. In 2004, the counties partnered with the Ministry of Natural Resources Resource Stewardship Council And at this time, the roadside tree policy was created in response to unauthorized removal of county trees and county infrastructure along its road network. The Resource Stewardship Council at this time also began tree planting projects along its county roads. These included both windbreaks for dealing with drifting and blowing snow, and also beautification projects. The counties funded this program annually, and it was administered by the Resource Stewardship Council until the early 2010s. After this closure, the counties partnered with a local conservation authority to deliver the same program, and in 2023, the counties brought this program in-house. This is just an example of a treed roadway along County Road 7. The photo depicts a matured treed roadway with spruce and Scots pine. These trees were estimated to be around 50 years old and serve many functions along this road network. The objectives of the program align directly with Council's strategic priority for green living. Our goal is to establish healthy roadside trees that enhance the visual, environmental, and most importantly, the safety aspects along our SDG county road network. Our windbreak plantings are focused in priority drifting areas with the goal to improve road user safety. This is the environmental policy that was adopted by Council in 2023 to 2026, which outlines that we are to take steps to reduce our carbon footprint through environmentally conscious construction methods and fleet management practices. We will subscribe to the principles of long-term sustainability, mitigating the impact of climate change, and environmental stewardship in our operations and line of business. So here we'll go over some of the benefits of roadside tree planting. There are numerous benefits of planting along trees along the roadside. These include enhanced safety to the public, and these are people who are using our beautiful road network by reducing drifting potential, and also improving the visibility along our road network. Trees sequester carbon, which relates to our strategic plan of green living and greening our operations. Trees also assist in limiting soil erosion, specifically into our roadside ditches, which function to remove water away from our road base, prolonging the life of some of our core infrastructure. Trees also assist with property delineation, and trees contribute to the beautification of our road network, aiding in scenic views of our beautiful county. This photo was taken along County Road 18 within the township of South Stormont. This photo was taken on December 20th of this year, and in the background you can see small trees that were planted along within the county road right-of-way. This was one of two locations that particular day that had blowing snow accumulating on the roadway. This location was planted, as mentioned, in the fall of 2025 to replace trees that had been removed along that section, knowing that it was a priority area for the St. Andrews Patrol area. So these are the types of roadside tree planting that we do engage in. We primarily focus on two main categories, these being windbreaks and landscape plantings, as Cameron had mentioned. Windbreaks are intended to function as living snow fences with the ability to reduce the potential for drifting snow ending up on our road network. These trees are planted in single or double row orientation in a linear fashion, perpendicular to or parallel to the road. Many of our windbreak planting locations are planted in areas where trees existed before. These types of plantings include infill and replacement plantings. This picture represents an infill planting where you can see mature county trees in the distance with the replacement of spruce that were planted in 2024. This particular section of road is prone to drifting and is just south of County Road 43 in Chesterville. So going into site selection, windbreak site selection is done directly in consultation with our patrol supervisors. These are the gentlemen who are responsible for the maintenance of our winter operations and maintenance of our road network, and it is divided amongst 4 separate patrols. These patrol supervisors know our roads the best and are intimately familiar with varying degrees of storm, direction of wind, and the effectiveness of treed barrier along our roads. Priority amongst these locations, although numerous, are given to priority areas. As these patrol supervisors know the sites best, we have an opportunity at the time to discuss site limitations and opportunities in advance of the planting project. Limitations may include proximity to municipal drains, sight lines, entrances, and of course utilities. So this is a video that was taken in 2024 along County Road 20. This section of road historically did not have issues with drifting snow, and the video was taken during the winter of 2024. And this video, or this This location is within the St. Andrews Patrol area. Oh, sorry, next slide. And then here's a video of the same section of road heading north towards County Road 18. This road is again the same section within the St. Andrews Patrol. And during this particular wind event, plows were needed to be dispatched to deal with these two areas, the same one within the previous photo there. This being one of them, and the other section along County Road 18, which I had mentioned in that previous slide. Oops. So once the site is selected, we get into the nitty-gritty of actually discussing and choosing proper species for the right location. Windbreaks are mostly comprised of spruce. These include both Norway and white spruce. Branching on spruce is evenly distributed throughout the tree and has distribution of fine branching from top to bottom. Norway spruce tend to be our top choice, as this tree occupies a wide range of soil conditions, is relatively salt tolerant, and also can tolerate a wide range of drainage conditions. Very wet sites with improper or poor drainage would be planted with white spruce, which are ideally suited to heavy clay and poor drainage, as I had mentioned. We select species from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture's Best Management Practice fact sheet. This fact sheet is included on our website, and these species are ideal for establishing windbreaks and are highlighted by the ministry as being trees that rarely impact tile drains. A small component of hardwoods is usually incorporated into our windbreaks to add diversity of each feature. And again, these tree species are selected from that same list. So here is outlined just as a comparison, showing the difference of planting a variety of species over a 1 kilometer section of roadway. Shrubs and cedars are required to be planted at a higher density in order to function with the same and create the same growing conditions. Inferences can be made at all levels of these assessments, but comparatively, you're able to see the difference in cost between establishing spruce versus establishing shrubs or cedar, and comparatively for the installation of snow fence. And it's averaged out over a cost of 10 years. Once the site is selected and we have our species narrowed down, we get into the actual physical planting. Most of our planting occurs in the fall, as this is the best time to plant trees of this type. Whenever we get into site layout, it's completed in advance of the contractor mobilizing to the site. And we can commit to planting these or doing these planting layouts 2 weeks in advance of planting to allow landowners to see where the trees are going to be planted. Some of the work that is done in advance also includes mowing the site and then also, of course, the flagging. It may be difficult to see in this photo, but at each permitted and approved entrance to the property, we do place stakes on either side of the entrance, and this lets planters know where to end and where to stop, or where to stop and where to begin planting again. As per our entrance bylaw, these entrances are around 6 meters or roughly 20 feet, and we place these orange stakes around 10 feet on either side of those permitted entrances. Trees are planted roughly 3 feet from the property boundary, and in the past, plantings would be established directly adjacent to the fence, but we're trying to keep off the property boundary. In the past, some cases had trees upwards of like 1 foot off the property boundary, so we're trying to be a little bit more cognizant of those property boundaries. Many of our planting locations have or had existing trees within the right-of-way, so we're looking at replacing those trees as well. So whenever we do plant the trees, there's an amount of tending that is required to be done. In subsequent years, tree planting sites are visited to be tended, and tending just includes controlling the vegetation around these trees until they're at a free-to-grow stage. This is usually whenever the trees reach about 50 centimeters high or hip height. So this is usually done for 2 to 3 years post-planting. Mowing is the preferred method for tending these larger sized trees, as you cannot spray effectively around them to control the vegetation. and as these trees are too big for spot spraying. Tending of 1 kilometer of roadside trees takes approximately 1 hour and is completed once annually. So outlined in this table is a summary of the past 3 years for our planting. In 2025, the counties signed up as a planting delivery agent through Forest Canada. Potted stock was now available for subsidy, so we did receive close to $6,000 back for our planting subsidies, which allows us to invest more into the program. We have been able to lower the cost by having trees contract grown, and we regularly have several contractors bidding on the work to do that, which lowers the planting costs. Planting sites are grouped together similar to our other capital projects such as paving. This reduces planting and maintenance costs, making it more attractive for contractors to bid on completing the work. Planting programs, whether it be on municipal, right-of-way, county forest, private land, or park settings, will always face environmental challenges. These are a given. Examples like this past summer's drought, invasive species such as the emerald ash borer, native and foreign diseases, whether they be fungal or invasive pathogens, and changing winter conditions all contribute to the health of both newly planted trees and well-established trees along our right-of-way. These environmental challenges are unpredictable, but assist in informing our decision moving forward about species selection, and of course, most importantly, diversification to make these features more resilient along our road network. Some of the other challenges that we do face, particularly within our right-of-ways, is encroachment, which is the unauthorized use of county land. An increasing challenge involves these listed types of encroachments which impact our operations. These county-owned assets are removed, altered, or damaged, and which impacts our maintenance operations. The counties have recovered costs associated with unauthorized tree removals within our county road right-of-way and reinvest that into the program. In order to improve the public engagement for the program, we do take this very seriously and have committed to creating a webpage with an interactive planting map, which will allow landowners to see where the planting projects will occur in the upcoming year. We can also send letters to adjacent property owners in advance. And we also work proactively to engage with landowners where right-of-way encroachment is impacting our operations. And this will be completed in advance of planting season. Yep, and then I can show you the website that we did create, so you're able to see. So this just gives a breakdown as to why we plant trees, commonly planted trees within our right-of-way, what species we plant, and then we also have a link to planting locations as well, how I can provide feedback. So there's a feedback form there, and then we've also posted all of the fact sheets from OMAFRA for establishing tree cover, best management practices for windbreaks, farm drainage system and tree roots and that. So, and this is sort of a more interactive map. I can show you. So you'd be able to zoom in. Is this showing up? Yeah. Okay, zoom in on a site. So this is County Road 34 at the very north end, McCrimmon's Corners. Probably one of the worst areas for Green Valley's patrol. And you can see the planting site, when we'll be planting it, so it'll be planted in the spring, what species we will be, in the planting type. Okay, can you go back to the...
Thank you very much. So what I'll...
Sorry, we have one more.
You got more?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, okay. No,
Yeah,
I thought,
apologize for that.
go ahead.
So we're happy to work with the agricultural community, Federation of Agriculture, and other agricultural organizations to promote tree planting opportunities on private land. There are many programs which offer grant subsidies and cost recovery models to enable landowners to establish these windbreaks on their property. Programs such as ALICE, RELP, which is the rural, Resilient Agriculture Landscape Program, Forest Canada, and numerous clean water grants programs offer these opportunities for landowners to access funds to fully cover tree planting on their private lands. The counties will also continue to work to promote educational opportunities, workshops, and social media posts from these organizations to promote these opportunities. I'm also looking forward, we could offer, public planting events geared towards the public and local school groups in an effort to further enhance community engagement, and of course work with any volunteers who are willing to establish and maintain some of our natural roadside assets. So, thank you.
Thank you. So now I'll go for questions from council, starting with Councillor Broad.
Yeah, thank you, Warden, and through you, and thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Phil, for an excellent presentation and update. And I know we've kind of heard this a little bit previously in the fall. The opportunity when a request was brought forward to talk about roadside planning, and therefore, and I know the discussion may lead into whether we do it or not on a certain property, and that's what we'll hear from the Farmer Federation. But I want to commend the team and the staff, Phil and Cameron. The feedback that day was the lack of communication and the opportunity to communicate better, and I think with this website, the form, the mapping in advance, I think they've met the needs of our discussion in the fall of what was lacking in the roadside planning program. So I'd like to commend both gentlemen for the work they've done to date.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Yeah, thank you, Warden. And I just want to get a little bit more technical here on your tree planting location. And the only thing I can do is pull from my experience in land development. Nowadays, tree planting and land development is really becoming more of a science than anything regarding soil type, root barriers, root zones, canopy coverage, all of that stuff. So I'd like you, can you walk me through, I think you said you plant 3 to 5 feet off of the property line. But I would imagine that most of the trees, as I seen in the photo, a lot of the canopies do encroach onto the private land. And then do you guys consider the critical root zone of a tree in determining the exact location of where a tree should be planted off of a property line?
We do utilize that feedback from, or the fact sheet from OMAFRA in that site selection for what that looks like. And the critical root zone for a tree is determined by the drip line of that tree. So as that tree grows, that drip line does extend outwards. That being said, the roots of those and the lateral spread for those trees, estimated at around like 40 years, will be around 15 feet from the actual center, which will both go down into the roadside ditch and also possibly over onto the adjacent landowner.
Subsequent, Warden, and I'm going to ask the same question on the next presentation as well. So obviously, there's a concern about the tree planting that we've undertaken. Is the concern about the critical root zone, or is the concern more about the canopy of the tree, or is the concern we're just planting trees along the roadside? And again, I'm going to ask that same question on the next presentation.
I might defer the question to the Glengarry Federation to speak on behalf of their members as to what their main concern is. I believe there may be some conversation about crop yields, shading, that type of thing. And I'll probably best to let them speak to that. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'll look to see if there's any other question. I think there'll be value to hear the delegation and then put everything together as far as question, but I'll let Councillor Fraser go ahead with his question.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you, it's not a question, it's a comment, and I think it might have been the last or next to last slide. It was about the public engagement, and I really, we are rural. We are an ag community, all of SDG. I think more ag by far than really most municipalities or upper tiers in our area. And I look at the public engagement because we all know that there's lots of challenges from the public about removing trees, and lots of people, and rightly so, have great belief and support and desire to see trees in our area. It is a wonderful thing to see trees, but we also have to be mindful of what our agriculture community does for us. we are ag. And I always promote our industry as ag, and I truly believe that. But I think we need to really work hard on developing a relationship where we understand how we can work together. This is more a little bit beyond the roadside tree planting, but it's about trees. We work hard together and cooperatively to find ways where we can slough off that mantle of being anti-tree and being pro-environment and support growth in trees and other areas that are not affecting business, not affecting our industry, but supports our communities. And so the public engagement part, I think we really need to work closely with our different federations of agriculture in SDG, and even at the lower tier, find ways that we can work together to support efforts to highlight the benefits of agriculture and the commitment of agriculture to ensuring trees are in our areas. That's just my comment. I know I'll have a chance to make that comment later, and I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. So any further questions, or we move on? I believe the reason we're here today is the collaboration, and I think we to hear both sides and then just kind of hopefully working together for the best common goal. So I'll take one more question from Councillor McGillis, and then we'll move on to the delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Phil, has there been any thought put into, when farm owners or farmland owners of the property are clearing trees, or any just public clearing the trees, and say say a clear cutting, if you will, to protect the soil, ask them to leave the trees in the front for a buffer? Has there been any thought in that, protecting the trees, reduce drifting, and protect the soil too as well? Wouldn't that make any sense if you see that they're going to cut the whole field, for example, or the whole bush or the forest? Could they not leave the front row for a buffer? Because, they could create drifting to that.
Yeah, I would say we would definitely welcome that opportunity, but in these situations, we are encountering encroachment onto the county road, which includes the removal, of the trees on the private land and also extending over onto the county road right of way. But if we do see those situations, if that would be something that council would want us to do, we could certainly reach out to those landowners to see if they are interested in leaving a treed buffer along their private property.
Thank you. So with subsequent, go ahead.
I think it's a
Councillor
worthwhile thing to look into, if any council would support something like that. I can't see why we wouldn't. We'd save a lot of money planting trees, for one thing, and the trees are already probably mature at the time, so it would be a win-win for everyone. So we can talk about that another day, I guess.
Thank you. Go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, I might just add to Councillor McGillis's point is, I guess where we are having these drifting locations, there's likely not that woodlot that currently exists, or else we might not be prioritizing that specific location. So I don't know that we can ask them maybe if they're looking at clearing bush to leave a section of that tree line.
Thank you. So with that said, I think we can move into our delegation. And then from there on, maybe Cameron and Phil, questions might be coming for both parties once the delegation's over. So I will request Mr. Duncan Ferguson, President of the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture, will come on speak on their behalf. Welcome, Mr. Ferguson, and the floor is yours.
All right, we're just Waiting for the presentation to load here. It might take a few minutes. Here we go. There we go. I think we're off. All right, good morning. I'd like to start by thanking everybody here today, both council for allowing us this opportunity to speak here today. And I'd also like to thank everybody that's come out here today. This is a fantastic turnout from the agricultural community across all 3 municipalities in SDG. And I would like to note that we do have representatives from all 3 counties here today. Introduction, myself, I'm Duncan Ferguson. I'm the president of the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture. We farm and operate a commercial grain elevator in South Glengarry County. But the fact that I am the president of the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture shouldn't be taken as this being solely a presentation from the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture. We met with our counterparts in Stormont and Dundas County last month, talked about the various issues that we're facing with this project, and we agreed that rather than boring you with 3 presentations that essentially say the same thing, that one person would speak on behalf of the group, engage with our members across all 3 municipalities, and bring a united voice to this presentation. So just as I was introducing myself, there were some photos cycling through the background of our farm and commercial grain elevator. And the one thing I'd like to point out, you know, take a look in the background. What do you guys see? Let's see if this works now. Oh, there we go. All right, it was supposed to zoom out to that, but anyways, that's fine. So in addition to, oh, let's go back a little bit here. I'll have to apologize. The last time I did a slideshow presentation was probably back when I was in university, and that's a few years ago now. So this was a little bit of a learning curve for me. So I'd like to note that in addition to farming and operating a commercial grain elevator in South Glengarry County, we also have a 170-acre sustainably managed woodlot. And that's not something that we look at passively. It's a very active part of our activities through the year, to the point that my brother's actually sitting in the background there, that it creates a little bit of family conflict as we're trying to get the last of the corn out and are off the field, and Dad's on our case to get the corn off quickly so that he can go to the bush and start doing selective cutting, because he sees the opportunity when snow levels are relatively low to get in there and do those operations. Also, you know, I should note that we are active in the Ontario Woodlots Association, and if you go to the OWA website, you'll see our woodlot very prominently featured there. In addition to this, my brother's a partner with Whiteman Sugarbush. He has been for a number of years now. And as for myself, I'm not actively in the bush every day necessarily, but I fish, I hike, I ski. I'm actually working my way through the 46er challenge in the Adirondacks right now. I'm about 20% done. My sister's well ahead of me, 60% done, so I have a little bit of catching up to do, but we are working through this. All that to say, we come from a background that not only actively uses and appreciates the natural heritage features, but we also actively work to protect and conserve them. So I really want that to be in the back of your minds as I give this presentation. We don't dislike trees. We like trees. And anybody that's known my grandfather, there's a few folks around the room that would have had interactions with my grandfather, know how important that was to his legacy and to our family in general. So I'd just like you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. So we heard a lot about snowdrifts and the idea that snowdrift mitigation is the primary goal of the establishment of these windbreaks across our county roads. So I just wanted to start with looking at what the characteristics and criteria are for establishing a successful windbreak that works. And Mr. Duncan will have highlighted a number of these, and I will give him that for the most part, the selection process is correct, and he's putting a lot of consideration and thought into what he's doing. But there are a few items that we haven't fully appreciated yet that I think we need to put a little bit more consideration into. So we'll just scroll through this. First off, we have the orientation. That's obvious. Our tree line needs to be parallel to our roads. That makes sense. Height. Doubling the height more than quadruples the snow captured, and we'll go through this in a little bit more detail. It's maybe not necessarily the most intuitive part of the conversation around snowdrift mitigation and windbreaks, but I just want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind for now. Density makes sense. The more dense the canopy is, the more snow falls out of suspension and the less ends up in snowdrifts. That makes sense. Minimum distance. So you look down at the comments at the bottom of the sheet here, and I hope that's large enough for everybody to read. This slide came from the Arbor Day Foundation. It's not something that I pulled out of thin air, but if you look at their minimum distance requirement for an effective windbreak, we're looking at 200 feet in open country or 100 feet in areas with natural obstructions or less snowy winters. That makes sense, or at least it does start to make sense when you think about how a windbreak works. And we've heard anecdotally, and I've had this conversation with a number of you. I think about conversations I've had with Councillor Williams about her desire to work on mitigating snowdrifts across Glengarry County. And anecdotally, we know that we're driving down Highway 34, we're in blizzard-like conditions or snowdrifting conditions. All of a sudden, we hit a patch of road where there are trees, and we can see all of a sudden. And I'm going to give an example a little bit later as to why the design of the tree line is so important, and what I'd like you guys to think about in those examples. And it might not hit you straight away. I know it didn't hit me straight away until I started putting this presentation, and I thought about areas that I drive on a regular basis and what those tree lines look like. But what I hope you'll see, those areas that we don't have concerns, where we have trees that are mitigating snowdrifts, it's not a single line of trees. I think in Glengarry County, the areas that are effective windbreaks are large woodlots or multiple rows of trees set back far from the road. So let's think about how a windbreak actually works and what's transpiring to keep the snow out of our roadways. So we have the prevailing wind coming from one side. It hits the windbreak, and where does the snow fall? Most people will think, anecdotally, that the snow is going to stop on the prevailing side of the windbreak. That's not entirely correct. This wind is going through the windbreak. The windbreak slows the velocity of the wind, and the snow falls out of suspension on the opposite side of the windbreak. And that's why the distance from the roadways is so important, and the height of the windbreak is so important. The higher the windbreak, the further you have to be away from the road. It makes sense, you know, higher windbreak, more wind velocity, more wind going through that windbreak, the more snow that's falling out of suspension onto the opposite side of the tree line. So with that in mind, Mr. Duncan highlighted a few areas of concern, and just so happens that one of the areas of concern is actually not that far away from our farm. Excuse me. All right, so if you look at the slide here, You can see our yard up here in the upper right-hand corner. You move south along Highway 34 towards Lancaster. Some of you might know the area very well. Some of you might be a little bit less familiar with it. But just to bring it into context, the area, from the pipeline, which is right around where the Highway 34 icon is, moving north, it's open country. It's very wide open. We farm on one side. We have two neighbors on the other side that farm. It's open. You move south towards Glen Gordon Park. It's a little picnic area that has a standing tree line currently. And this is the part that I really hadn't given much thought to until I started putting this presentation together. I live over here on Concession Road 4, that little square right there in the middle of the wheat field. That's where I live. So I commute from my place over to the farmyard and back every day. And I started thinking about it, and it hit me on Monday last week when I was driving home as I was putting this presentation together. The most treacherous part of that drive home all the time through the winter isn't the area that's wide open here to the north. It's actually that area on the curves where the park is. And that makes sense. Now that we know how a windbreak works, it makes sense that that's the first area to ice over. It always has snow drifts, and it always leads to more deployments of snowplows to deal with that snow that's accumulating. We had a perfect example of this last week, Wednesday. I was out grabbing some lunch in Lancaster, and we had a little bit of a wind event. It wasn't a huge wind event, but it really, really illustrated this point really well. So I'll advance the slide here. I've zoomed in a little bit on the thumbnail there so you guys can see a little bit clearer of what we're looking at. This picture was taken south of Concession 4, looking south towards Lancaster. And we can see that we've got an established tree line here. And I think the most important part to note is we have drifting snow on the road. So what's happening here? The wind is passing through the tree line. It's slowing the wind velocity, and that snow is falling out of suspension onto our county roads. What's that mean for the counties? It means that you guys are going to be deploying snowplows more often and using more salt to deal with that. We'll go to the next picture. So this is looking south on 34 towards the picnic grove this time. So if we look at our thumbnail up here, we're just at that very northern part where we have the first bend. Same thing. We have an established tree line, and a fairly significant established tree line at that, and it's icing over and drifting over. From experience, and I know a lot of you travel this part of the country fairly frequently, this is the most treacherous part of my drive home every single night that we have a snow event. I turn left to go up 4th Concession. When I stop there, I'm continuously scanning my rear view mirror. There's a lot of truck traffic on that road, just making sure that, folks are aware that I'm stopped and waiting to turn, and they're not going to skid on black ice there. This is the most treacherous part of my drive home. Next slide. So this is looking north, same day. I just turned 180 degrees. That's looking towards our bin site there. You see Fallowfield Road on the left-hand side. And I am standing just right about on the curve there. I've zoomed in a little bit, but you can just see the entranceway to the Trans-Canada Pipeline site right there. So same day, same time, open country, we have clear roads. And actually the clear roads, that's not snow underneath that truck. That's bare and dry pavement. So when we're looking at the establishment of these windbreaks, that distance component is very, very, very important. We do this poorly. Not only are we not going to solve the issues that we set out to solve, we're going to make them worse, and we're going to make our roads more treacherous. So let's take a look at a project that was established this year on County Road 20, just outside of Martintown. So knowing what we know now, I'm going to ask you guys, with where these trees are positioned, Is it going to help snowdrift remediation, or is that going to hinder it? Are we going to have more instances of a snowplow deployment, and are we going to have to use more salt to address those issues? So why is that important to the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture, or any Federation of Agriculture for that matter? Up to this point in time, as far as I'm concerned, it's a taxpayer issue. You know, it's there's costs in establishing these tree lines. There's costs in deploying plows, and there's a very real cost to salt, especially this year with the shortage in supply that we have. I know that cost very well. The number of calls that we've gotten the last month for trucks to haul salt to various parts of Ontario is very real, and I can appreciate the strain that that's putting on snow removal budgets across Ontario right now. But the impact on neighboring properties, in particular farm properties. So this is a yield map from one of our farms. It's not along the county road, but it serves our purpose really well. So zooming in, some of you might know this area, some of you might not. This tree line right here is actually county property. It's the old Peanut Line rail line. It's a rail line that's been taken out of use, and it's a multi-use trail system now for South Glengarry County. We farm its borders. There's a very well-established tree line that runs the length. And what I really want to illustrate here is the impact that it has on crop production. So if you look at the green areas of this slide, we're in the neighborhood of, we'll call it 60 bushels. Some areas are higher, some areas are lower, but in general, we'll call the areas of full production 60 bushel soybeans. You look at the areas that are directly adjacent to the tree line. Our headland passes are 90 feet. You look at the areas where that yield impact is, and those are the areas in orange and yellow. It's a little bit wider than our headland pass, probably closer to 100 feet. But for the sake of this conversation and my illustration today, we'll say that that impacted area is 90 feet wide. Does that make sense to everybody? Good. And then you look at that reduction in yield. So we're in the orange and yellow area. Again, you see a range of impact, but for the sake of the illustration today, we'll call that an average of 30 bushels per acre, so a 30 bushel decrease in production. And then I'd like to take a look at a project that was established this year. Some of you might be familiar with the site, some of you might not. So for those of you that aren't necessarily familiar with that site, the county's planted on the west side of County Road 20, so that's on our right-hand side, from County Road 18 all the way to the bottom of the field. So that area is about 1,200 meters long, and then they planted from the laneway at the bin site all the way south again to the end of the field, which is an area of just over 1,000 meters in length. Simplicity of math, we're going to call that 1,200 and 1,000 meters long. So that potentially impacted area when those trees are fully mature is an area of 90 feet by 2,200 feet long. Do a little bit of conversion in there. Farming in Eastern Ontario get really, really good at doing conversions between imperial and metric. I've done the math for you guys. You guys can check me on this later, but that's an area of just over 14 acres in land that would be impacted by that tree line. So you go through the math. 40 acres by 30 bushels per acre loss or reduction in production works out to 420 bushels that farmer isn't going to produce on that acreage. Beans are roughly worth $550 per ton right now. I know a lot of folks in the crowd would like me to say 600 bushel, very fair average price. $550 per ton. Convert that to bushels, works out to roughly just under $15 per bushel. It's $14.97. Easy math, $15 per bushel times 420 bushels is a $6,300 reduction in income for that producer. So I want to take that out of this context and apply it to something that might resonate a little bit more with you folks, and that's difficult to do. It's not quite the same, so I really struggled at finding an example that we could all appreciate and discuss. And the closest thing that I could come up with was the idea that, you know, you have a property, a beautiful frontage that has a great view looking out across the landscape. Counties come along and they plant a row of trees, block your view, and you have absolutely no say in the establishment, location, or type of trees that are put in it. In addition to not having any say of the design and location of this tree line, we're also going to garnish your paychecks to the tune of $6,300 every year. How would you guys feel about that? So the important thing to remember here, our members are family farm operations. They're not corporate farms with offices on Bay Street. A reduction in $6,000 or a little over $6,000 means as much to them as it would mean to any one of you. $6,000 per year, it might mean Christmas is a little bit leaner for their families. It might mean that they're not taking that March break vacation somewhere with their family. It's very real and it's very measurable. And then you go on to the idea that, you know, there are areas of concern across our county. What if that property owner, what if that farmer has a second property that is selected for snowdrift remediation? That impact to that farmer just becomes that much larger. 6,000 becomes 12,000, or depending on the size of the project. So there are very real cost implications here, and that's why I feel we need to sit down and find a model. I don't disagree. We need to do something about snowdrift remediation across the counties, but we need to work on it together and find solutions that are going to work for both the counties, the staff, and our producers. So another area that we've touched on is this idea that windbreaks are creating microclimates for our producer, and it's something that, that Mr. Duncan alluded to in his November presentation, claiming that it comes straight out of the OMAFRA fact sheet. I'd like to highlight a couple of things about that fact sheet. I've had a chance to look at it, and one of the issues that that fact sheet fails to mention is that it doesn't take into account the best management practices that our producers are already using. That fact sheet assumes that we're using full tillage practices, that we're moldboard plowing every fall, that we're doing full tillage, and that wind and soil erosion is a very real and detrimental event that happens every year to our producers. That's just not the fact. Our producers are using a variety of best management practices, such as reduced tillage, no-till tillage or planting, and cover crops. So by doing so, that wind and soil erosion concern is a lesser concern. And I'd like to highlight, you know, you go back to this, this yield map that we have of our own farm. So not only do we have a row of trees along the south edge on the diagonal, we have a row of trees on the north side. That's actually an unopened road allowance that runs the length of the property there. We haven't touched the tree line. So it does, there is a boundary on 3 out of the 4 sides. The idea that we are creating a microclimate and that there's potential yield benefits in these areas that are bordered by tree lines, well, let's take a look at that area that's bordered by trees on all 3 sides versus the area that's wide open, and we can see that it's simply not true, that there are significant production drags when you border a tree, or border properties on all 3 or 4 sides, like is being suggested. And the other thing I'd like to point out, we're blessed in the United Counties to have a very wide and vibrant dairy community. What do dairy farmers plant? They plant a lot of hay, which is the best cover crop that we have in our arsenal. We have standing crop in our fields, or in a lot of our fields throughout the entire year, that provides that wind and soil erosion mitigation. So our farmers are using practices that address the soil and wind erosion part of the conversation. So some of those arguments are mute. This one really bugs me. So I had a chance to go out to one of the sites that were planted this fall, and line of sights are absolutely atrocious. And I'm going to go through a little video here and a little demonstration of just what I mean. I was out at the site on County Road 20 just last Monday. So you'll see from this video, I'm in my pickup truck right now. I'm stopped at a reasonable distance from the road. I think everybody would agree with that. I'm not close to the road. I'm not crowding the road by any stretch of the imagination. I'm also not 15, 20 feet back. I'm at a very reasonable distance that I think anybody would agree that this is where you would normally stop and check for traffic. So we'll just pan to the left, which is the area that was planted by the counties, and you can see where exactly I'm sitting on the road. We might have stalled here 2 seconds. There we go. So just to orient you guys a little bit more again, in the thumbnail, we have the property that I'm sitting on, the lane entrance, so it's right there at the corner, and I've zoomed in a little bit to give you folks a little bit better view of what we're looking at. So we can see, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here, we're looking south down County Road 20 right now from that bin site. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and you can see the line of trees that was planted. And I'd like you guys just to take note of that little shrubbery in the forefront of that image. That's going to be important in my next slide, just to give you guys a little bit of orientation when I zoom back out. The other thing I'd like you guys to take a look at or note is that car that's coming up on County Road 20, heading northbound. That's actually Mr. Kinlock that's coming up to the farm, not Scott, his father, Henry. Henry's a super nice guy. Anyone that's had the opportunity to meet with Henry, you'll know that you might as well block out an hour or two of your time, because he will have some stories for you, and we love Henry very much. So we're going to zoom out again here. So again, we see the line of trees here. We see that shrubbery. We see the oncoming traffic. I'm going to plant a row of trees, or I'm going to let those trees grow a little bit. I gave Councillor Lang the opportunity to take a look at this slideshow on Thursday or Friday, I believe it was, and the first thing he said when I showed him these slides, my God, those trees aren't fully grown yet. Those are very, very small trees. Where'd Henry go? Go back again. We can clearly see the oncoming traffic. Let those trees grow back up, and again, there's that shrubbery right there. That's the end of where the trees were planted. We no longer have line of sights off of this property. So I'm in my pickup truck right now. Let's think about the other vehicles that are using that property entrance on a regular basis. This is a grain bin site. This producer is hauling out in and out of there on a regular basis with wagons and grain trucks. Let's think about a 63.5-ton grain truck pulling out of that property. My pickup truck was at a safe distance from the county road. Let's think about a grain truck. How close will that grain truck be to the county road before he has a clear line of sight looking south? Let's think about a large agricultural tractor, a 300-400 horsepower tractor. A tractor is going to have a 12, 15-foot hood on it. where's that tractor going to be by the time he has a clear line of sight? So, and this is the part that really irks me. This is another site that was planted by the counties a number of years ago. I took this picture right out of Mr. Duncan's presentation last fall. So we have county road to county road. It's cut off a little bit up here, but we do have a county road coming out from this direction onto County Road 15. And we can see that there's a very clear consideration given to line of sights, county road to county road. So if we're giving these considerations to ourselves at the county, why aren't we giving these same considerations to property owners? We also had a discussion, or Mr. Duncan mentioned, that they do survey the properties for, and this is important, approved field entrances. And I'll acknowledge that, you know, some of the issues that we had last fall surrounding field entrances weren't necessarily approved field entrances. I know from personal experience dealing with the counties, the process of moving a field entrance or modifying a field entrance is very difficult for a number of reasons, and I can appreciate why, what considerations the road departments do have when it comes to modifying field entrances. I talked to Councillor Lang about this last week, and he has a case that he might speak to a little bit later. I hope he does. But he's put in a request to modify a field entrance on one of his properties. The issue with modifying that field entrance is that the culvert, if they extend it, is going to be below the bottom level of the ditch on the lower side of the flow of water. So I can appreciate how the counties don't necessarily want to go and lower the ditch along the entire length of the property to accommodate the desire of the property owner to put a larger entrance in. The reality is those approved field entrances, as mentioned by Mr. Duncan, are 20 feet wide. Our equipment has changed significantly over the course of the last, even since I've been home over the last 20 years. We don't necessarily haul out with 5-ton wagons anymore. They're larger wagons, and you know, the safest way, as far as I'm concerned, to move crop from a field to an elevator or a bin site is in a grain truck. A 20-foot field entrance simply won't work. So if we have difficulties at the county level to approve wider field entrances to get trucks or larger wagons in and out, what a lot of farmers are resorting to is using flat areas of land which don't have ditches running through them to get their equipment in and out of the field. We don't necessarily know where those areas are until we interact with those property owners. And that was one of the biggest areas of concern this fall, is that the county staff showed up and simply started planting. We need to work proactively with our members to identify how those properties are being used and how to avoid conflict. If we simply show up and start planting trees and say, well, there's no field entrance here, too bad, we are going to create conflict, and our farm members aren't going to be very happy. They're going to be upset. All right. We also mentioned encroachment, and I can appreciate the concerns that the counties do have with encroachment. It's an issue that we've talked at length at the lower tier municipality. Turn to Councillor William. It's something that we've talked at length in North Glengarry County, and we've come up with some strategies, hopefully, to mitigate those concerns and respect property boundaries. I get it. We had a case once upon a time where we had a neighboring property owner that was clearing property, and they went a little bit far and started clearing on our property, and it created some conflict. I get it. I really do. So I've committed in the past, and I continue to commit to work with our members and make sure that message is heard. County property is county property. And if they are doing land improvement, they have to respect the boundary. And that's something that I will continue to pass along. But encroachment works both ways, and we alluded to this. I think we had a question here earlier this morning about this very point. So we look at the boundaries and we look at the proximity of where the trees are planted to the property boundary. You look at that photo again, and we can see the property boundary clearly delineated, and we can see where those trees are. It's not going to be very long before those trees are encroaching onto the neighboring property. You guys are upset when we encroach on your property, so it's no different when it's the other way around. When those trees start to encroach on agricultural properties, and we start losing acreage that we can make use of, it's understandable that we have the same emotions and the same sentiment. So then the question becomes, at whose cost is it going to be to keep those trees trimmed back? I don't feel that it should be at the farmer's expense or the property owner's expense to trim those trees back. So it's an added cost to the counties to keep those trees in line with the property boundaries. And I'm not entirely sure if that cost consideration is fully factored in to the cost of establishing and maintaining these windbreaks across the counties. We have a number of areas of concern, and if this is our default strategy with regards to addressing snowdrift remediation across the counties, those costs are going to continue to increase and become exponential. Other costs. And this is actually the first one that my father pointed out to me when we started talking about that roadside mowing and weed control. And I am happy that that Mr. Duncan did address this in his presentation. But the reality is, the counties have done an excellent job at with their roadside spraying program and their roadside trimming program to address issues like noxious weeds, like poisonous parsnip. We have a new noxious weed that was discovered last year in the county, or at least in South Glengarry, called Palmer amaranth. We don't want to see us go backwards and have those weeds established again in our road allowances. So the question becomes, if this strategy becomes pervasive and it's our primary strategy when we're dealing with snowdrift remediation, have we fully factored in what that's going to mean to our roadside trimming and spraying program? We've talked about what it's going to take to keep those trimmed back. I think the figure was an hour per kilometer. That becomes significant, and I wouldn't want to see us start going backwards on our roadside maintenance programs. So I'd like to leave with this. I can appreciate what we're trying to do here, and I believe that it was done with fully good intent, that we need to do something about snowdrift remediation in the counties. It's something that all of our members can understand. We all use our roadways, and we can appreciate the need to maintain and have safe and reliable infrastructure. I do feel that where we start to drift apart and start to have some issues, however, is with the implementation of the project. And as highlighted in this presentation, we do have a number of concerns related to that implementation that I think need to be discussed just a little bit further. One of the common themes that I heard this morning and out of that presentation in November was the desire of Council to work proactively with all stakeholders and our members to find solutions that work for everybody. In this case, and I am happy to hear that, that there will be a little bit more communication when it comes to the implementation of those projects, but I really, really feel that 2 weeks in advance isn't enough. We know where those areas of concern are today. We have a mapping system now that shows where those areas of concern are. What I wonder, and I'm not sure why we're not doing this, why aren't we going to those properties a year or two in advance and talking to those property owners and seeing if we can't find solutions that work for everybody? It's not that hard. I'm very accessible. My property is an area of concern, apparently. I've never been contacted by anybody from staff or council up until this point in time. So with that in mind, I'd like to recommend that we establish an agricultural advisory committee at the counties. It should be noted that the United Counties of SDG are the only upper tier municipality in Eastern Ontario that do not have an ag advisory committee. And Councillor Williams, you're shaking your head, yes. I'd like to, and I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. You look at the issues that we had in North Glengarry before we established a committee where we could sit down and discuss the issues ridden with conflict before, and the strides that we've made since then. Your phones have been quiet. I'm pretty sure your phones have been quiet. So that's my first recommendation. I'd like us to pause, and I'm not saying stop. I'd like us to pause this project until we have a chance to meet. There are very clear and measurable impacts with these projects. We need to set up some standards, some guidelines, and some guardrails that we all work within. I'm particularly thinking about those line of sights and the cost that it, or the reduction in income to our members. We need to have a calm and intelligent conversation about that. I'd also like to look at what other jurisdictions are doing. And there's some folks in the crowd here that have experience with other jurisdictions. I'm thinking in particular folks that work with the MTO along 138. There are folks here that have experience working with the MTO, and their approach is a little bit different to what we're doing here. I think they should be part of the conversation. I also know of other jurisdictions across southwestern Ontario. In particular, I look at the program that Grey County has established and how they work collaboratively with their producers to find solutions that work for everyone. We need to look at those models and see if those models are something that we can adapt here that treat our producers fairly and address the issues that we have. So I think that's something that the committee should be looking at, and hopefully we can find common ground there. We have a number of areas of concern. And as I've mentioned before, we should be going to those areas of concern well in advance. 2 weeks is not enough time. Let's talk to those property owners now and see if we can find collaborative ways to work together. Simply planting a single row of trees along those properties is going to lead to conflict and, as shown in my presentation, may not have the desired effect that we're looking to have. So with that, I'll end. I've said a lot here, and I would like to take some questions here. So we'll open the floor.
Thank you very much. I believe Councillor McGillis has another engagement, so I'll go to you first.
Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Warden. I know that forcing land uses has never been a popular endeavor. Actually, as the years I've been from mayor, it's actually been in failure, not working with the public. So I'm interested in seeing that the counties work with you as a partner in this endeavor. I like the idea. When I seen that, I was just looking it up, where other municipalities use shrubs, low-density shrubbery, so that it doesn't impact in your yield or in your operations. I think that we should take a look at maybe looking at the brush, type low-density brush, within our 33 feet in the center of the line, keep it on our side. Things like that, we have to look at. There's snow fences we can put in different places that we're not using now. And I like the idea, and I appreciate everybody coming out and, being very concerned about their, their product and their yield. And, I think that it's a good thing that we're all here together to talk about this. And I'm looking forward to maybe, starting something with the rest of the agriculture community and ensuring that, and having a committee, as you said. I know the last election, a lot of people were talking about starting that type of committee, and it never existed and never started. So maybe I won't be running next term, so maybe some of our nice councillors around this table will look at starting something like that for the agriculture community, and hopefully there'll be some gain over it too as well. So that's all I had to say before I leave. So thank you for your presentation, and I'll let everybody carry on with what they have to say. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Take care.
Thank you. I think there's opportunities here for answers that could come from both sides. So I believe both Phil and Cameron have also their mics available. So I'll take questions from council and we'll deem who's appropriate to answer. So I'll start with Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, Duncan, we do go back. I have a great deal of respect for you in your position as president and as a local agricultural professional. I have respect for everybody in this room. And I know from experience that often things appear to be further apart in agreement than they actually are. And it's not until you all get around the same table and get the facts and figures out on the table and concerns are aired that you realize that you're not very far apart and that pretty much everybody wants the same thing. And we figured that out in North Glengarry. We have a rural committee, which is essentially what you're talking about with an agricultural advisory committee. Call it what you want, but it brings everybody around the table. You work together. We established a tree cutting bylaw in North Glengarry that I thought was going to be the death of all of us. It turns out that we established something that was actually, I think, useful and for both parties. And Duncan was instrumental in helping that happen. I can see that there's a will around this table. I'm sure that that Phil is the right person to be able to participate in this communication and opening the dialogue up and coming up with solutions that will work for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you, I'd like to thank Phil and Cameron both for their presentation and Duncan Ferguson. I'm going to get this Phil Duncan and Duncan Ferguson's are going to throw me at some point during this. So if I say the wrong one, just go with what I say.
I was sure I was going to mess up today, so that was very, very, very difficult. But we did it. We made it through.
Anyway, must be a great name, eh? So just thanking everybody for what they've done and for being, and thank the farm community for showing up, and maybe just, I know Councillor Fraser touched on it, just to maybe hit that home a little bit. The farm community in this room is by far our largest industry, the biggest economic driver in in the SDG. I'll give you a little example. I can use our farm, but I think I can actually use the county average. We're kind of at the northern edge of where you would grow grain corn, and down in the States they got a lot longer growing season. Southwestern Ontario, a little bit longer growing season. But we're consistently matching and beating. Like the average yield for the U.S. from 2020 to 2024 was 172 to 179 bushels. And we beat that all the time. So you're looking at some of the best farmers in, I think, North America and maybe the world. I don't know of any place else that I would say the farm community is better. So it's kind of like if we're sitting around this table and if we were the Council of Oshawa, it's kind of like the head people of GM walking in the room. This is their biggest business in that riding, and this farm community is our biggest business. So I really want to, kind of make sure we're aware of that. Sometimes we kind of take the farm community for granted, and even I do, and I'm part of it. We're not very great at tooting our own horn. It sounds it's uncomfortable sometimes. So as long as we make sure we think of that. A couple of things I wanted to mention about the tree planting program. And Duncan covered most of it, so my speech has all gone to hell here. But anyway, which is a good thing. I'd rather hear it from him. But it does feel a little bit like we're being singled out. We're planting trees along farm property. If we come to a residence, and that resident may have encroached on the county property, they cut the grass right to the pavement. They maybe remove trees, plant their own trees, do whatever they want, flower beds. We stop planting trees, though, at the residence. We jump to the other side and we keep going. The cemetery north of Martintown, we didn't plant trees across the front of the cemetery. We stop. We're planting trees on the edge of adjacent farm property, but we're not treating everyone the same when we do this. We're basically just doing the farm property as far as I can see. Now, maybe there's some instances I'm wrong, but that's what I've noticed driving around. I want to talk a little bit about the spray program. It was touched on. I think it's fantastic. This council, the counties have really stepped up. I know it's against some public opinion, but have really done a good job of trying to control noxious weeds. And I worry that we're going to go backwards a little bit. We're not going to be able to spray right up into these trees. And as they're growing and getting bigger, the weeds are going to be in there, and it's going to be very hard to control them. We won't be able to mow very close to them once they get a little bit bigger. The branches are going to be, these trees can hang out, 14, 15 feet at least, maybe more. So it's good. It's going to kind of hurt that program a little bit, which I think is a very successful program. Talk a little bit about the money. Thank you, Cameron, for sending me some figures. It looks like over the last few years we've spent very close to $400,000 per year. That's around, if rough numbers, about $200,000 each. And we were 353 in 2023, 417 in 2024, 396. So that includes in-house cost and external cost for doing trimming, tree removal, but looking after trees on our road allowances. And then you add in another $45,000 to plant trees on a road. So we're $450,000. We're coming up close to $500,000. And I think that number is going to grow as we continue to do these trees, because they do have to be looked after. There's 3 trees within a mile and a half of my place on County Road 27 that have blown over this winter. 2 of them, I believe, are dead. 1 was alive, spruce tree, similar variety to what we're planting. That snapped off with the winds we had early this winter, blew off. They all went into the farmers' fields. I don't know if the counties are going to clean them up or if the farmer will clean them up. Depends what happens, who gets there first, I guess, in the spring. But these costs are going to continue to go if we continue to plant trees. So my concern is that I would rather take that $450,000, which may turn into $550,000, which may turn into $1 million in 15 years, and put that money towards the county forestry. We have 10,000 acres of forest growing. I think Phil's doing an excellent job looking after them. I think we've got something we can be really proud of there. We've often said in the farm community that if the public wants trees and wants them looked after, the public should pay, and this council has actually listened and is doing that. And I think we need to continue that. I'd love to see that money going into maybe, acquiring more sensitive properties that could be added to our county forest instead of putting it along the roads, where I think it's going to be continual fight. Plant trees, we spend money to plant them, we spend money to trim them, we spend money to take them down because they don't live forever. And it's going to be a long-term thing. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at on it. I think it would be better if we kept our roadsides clear of trees, keep the trees on property that are actual woodlots where they can have the most benefit. And I don't know if we'll get any support, but I do like the idea of Duncan has of having a committee and maybe talking about it a little bit more. But that's where I'm at.
Thank you. I will maybe finish off on this side and then go to the right. So go ahead, Councillor Densham.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Very, very good presentation. A lot of good information to think about. And thank you, Duncan, and for your presentation as well. I love the idea of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. We introduced that this past term in North Stormont, and it has very much helped North Stormont Council to understand all of the puts and takes of decisions that are being made, and I think it would play a big role here. I agree that maybe it's time to take a step back, establish that committee, have some conversations. I hear 2 different versions of the science. I don't know who's right. I just know I wouldn't be right if you asked me to do the science. So, but I think what we need to do is get aligned on what we believe the true facts are, so that a decision can be made. It sounds like, again, we're all looking for safety and we're all looking for benefiting the community. So as Councillor Williams pointed out, sometimes that's just a good, thorough discussion that can help us reach a point where that balance is appropriately struck. And to be honest, I also think that having an agriculture advisory committee, something that I'm hearing not just here but also in our own municipality, it may be a good time to start talking about modernizing our entrance specs as well. So I think an agricultural committee would touch not just on this topic, on trees and snowdrifts, but I think it could have a positive impact in many, many other areas. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It makes a difference when each one of you is here, so thank you for being here to represent. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Warden. As many of you know, especially the ones from South Glengarry, I toured the county about 4 years ago, talked to many people, and I think the crux of it was there were people, stop cutting trees, and I stand very strongly with individual land rights, and that's, I think, some of this conversation. So I had asked everybody who said that to me, I would say, do you have any answers? Because I don't have the answers yet, and I think maybe this committee would be a start to it. But to touch on a few of the items, the people I listened to would say, like, trees beside a roadside, best not. And then presented here, it seems like one area that I would see like there's being some difficulty in matching, right? The best spot for windbreak is actually in privately owned fields, probably 100 to 200 feet away. So that's going to be an interesting thing. But as I'm trying to think of this project, like if the trees are up, negative externalities for the landowners, right? You're losing, as you said, half a yield for soybeans. I don't know what the same would be for corn, but I imagine it'd be same or worse. That being said, trees down mean negative externalities for the roadside. So putting it in the right spot will be an interesting conversation. I don't want to hide from that, like if that's where we go. I did have a question to you, or I guess perhaps many people in here would answer this one, I cannot, is if you left 4 rows of corn for that, say that stretch that you're talking about, Mr. Kinloch's property, what would the loss of yield be taking that down in the spring, say, for example?
Thank you. No, and I appreciate the question. And Councillor Lang and I had a conversation about this, I think on Friday, that standing crop is one of the most effective ways of controlling snowdrift across our county roads. There's a variety of different jurisdictions that use this right now. I look at City of Ottawa. It's something that's used widely through southwestern Ontario. So we do have a model that we could look at and implement here in the counties. Is there a yield loss to our producers? Absolutely. You look at that winter loss, you are going to lose a portion of the crop. But I would argue that from our perspective, if our producers were given the choice of leaving 4 rows of standing crop versus having to contend and deal with a very large windbreak for the duration of the life of that windbreak, they would choose to leave standing crop. So again, it's a conversation that we need to have. It's something that we need to consider and see if that model is something that we can implement across the counties. And I know that MTO is already implementing that strategy along 138. So we do have partners that we can turn to and examine what the efficacy of those models are. Well, I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yep. So that does solve to me, like the, excuse me, could solve, I should say, and there's no decision being taken, would be that's every second year, right? And then soybeans don't have the same efficacy stopping wind, right? So that to me is like half of a solution possibly, right? Because if it works well for the community as well as for the farmer, like if there's matching benefit, that'd be wonderful. Because it does come down to safety, and that's the big point for me on the roads for this program, and not just safety of the wind drifts, and you highlighted how different spots of tree planting or some planting, whatever that will be, offers different outcomes. Another thing, just because you had mentioned it, Councillor Lang, is that the forestry money being moved somewhere, and that's an item again that comes from talking to several people, or dozens or near thousands of people, I guess, 4 years ago. Would be, I think some of the answer is natural heritage mapping, and there's that disconnect sometimes. You know, you'll hear the farming community say like, well, it's our property, so like if you want it, you can buy it, and it's hard for say somebody who's smaller in volume. Like we don't have the property as landowners that are not farmers. But there may be some thought to if we can purchase particular tracts that are of value, right? So it does work for the farmer, and we don't. And then if say that there had to be big trees, and say that's the course we take, there is Alice, the program, and maybe. And I'm not into farm. Like I'm not a farmer, so I don't know these answers. But like Alice can sometimes subsidize crop if you put hay there, and then like there's just. I'd like that to go forward if you are a member of it or whoever sits on that council. That there are. It's not us against them, it's us together, and that's the big thing.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and I'd just like to respond to that a little bit, and I appreciate Councillor McDonald bringing the county's forestry program forward. It's an excellent program, and I've been a long-time supporter of the acquisition of sensitive properties. We had two very prominent cases in South Glengarry this year where there were donations made to the counties of very mature woodlots that are a very important feature of our natural heritage landscape. There was the more libertarian wing of our organization that came out and was opposed to it. And I was very public in my response and saying, no, this is a fantastic program. Tree canopy and tree cover across our region is a public good. It's a public service. And as such, as all public services and public goods, it needs to be, the cost of those services need to be shared by everybody. It can't solely be the landowner or property owner that's bearing the burden of those costs. So it's an excellent program. It allows folks that are deeply passionate about this issue to put their money where their mouth is. And I agree with Councillor Lang that maybe this is an opportunity to strengthen that program and continue to grow our shared natural heritage features across SDG. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go over to Councillor Bergeron.
Thank you, Warden, and I always keep it short. The bottom line for everybody here is that we have to find a way that we agree on to prevent the snow drifting on the roads. That's the bottom line. And whatever way we can find is that suits everybody, that's what we have to do. Because to me, that's the concern. The reason why they want to do the tree planting is because of the drifting snow. And if there's any other way to do it, that's great. And by the way, I am on the ALICE program, and they do compensate you if you plant trees in a certain area, you know, for protection of some kind.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you, and I just want to echo some of the comments that have been made already about the presentation, Mr. Ferguson. It's heartening to have a fulsome presentation with lots of information and lots of data, and I truly do appreciate that. But I want to touch on some things. You mentioned the Ag Advisory Committee, and I know there's members of the DFA here, and we've talked about Ag Advisory in North Dundas. And my very simplistic response, and it wasn't meant to be mean-spirited, is do you really want me telling you what I think about how your operation should work? Very simplistic overview. But I do talk, and I've talked to the DFA, Tom, and the others when I attended their recent meeting, I guess before the end of the year, end of 2025. This is very important as well. Presentations, delegations, opportunities for everyone to come here, and we get to understand that there really is buy-in, that representation is speaking for the whole, and this demonstrates that, and that's appreciated. And even at the lower tier, I look forward to more delegations, and we all know about what South Nation does and Raisin River does, how they present and they inform. In the same fashion, I look forward to the SDG Federation, if there ever was such a thing, and hopefully there will become one from maybe leadership like yours. to all of these challenges, you mentioned communication as being key, and I think some of the challenges about the 2-week, maybe this program is fairly new in its, maybe a couple years old, and some of the challenges that are coming up, and I do appreciate the need for a year or two lead time on these things. I know locally we have 20-year plans of how we expect our community to grow, and I'm pretty comfortable and confident to say that our forestry and tree planting programs would be developed in such a format where they could look years out and consult and get buy-in and interpretation and communication and agreement on some things. The standing crop thing, I see that at Mitch Owens and Ramseyville. I see that there. I know through some of the Dundas people that witnessed that. I'm sure you must have an idea of how many, 14 acres of corn, what that loss would be with 14 acres of corn standing longer. And that'd be an interesting thing for lay people that don't understand how much 14 acres of corn is worth. So whenever we discuss these things at this committee, this council, that we can weigh that and say, well, 14 acres of corn, the loss of yield, the loss of profit or income, and what does that do to the tree planting program, and how is that affected? How do we incorporate that? Because I see that as a benefit, because it answers some of the concerns that Councillor Lang talks about, is the pesticides and the herbicides being used, and how that can continue, because it's not affected by trees, because it's in the field and it supports the reduction of noxious species. But we have talked about something that Councillor McGillis has brought up before he left, the shrubs, the native species, the pollinators, but that in turn brings weeds into question, and how do you deal with that? So that's a challenge too, and I understand that. I'm a strong proponent of that, but I understand there's a challenge to ag because of the weeds. Do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And I think my takeaway from your comments are it's a very complex conversation, and it's a conversation that's not ideally suited for a committee of the whole meeting or a council meeting in general. We need to address the root causes and work creatively together to find solutions, and really an advisory committee that has the opportunity to meet, hash out these differences, hash out these challenges, and work collaboratively to find solutions so that we can make a recommendation to council, a very intelligent recommendation to council, and then move forward on it, is really the best way forward. So I do appreciate the comments, and I'm happy to see that you're highlighting the complexity of the issue, that it's not a simple yes or no answer. It's an involved conversation that we need to have.
It is a big conversation, because it affects the taxpayers, it affects industry, it affects transportation of goods. The bottom line, the tax levy to the ratepayers, do we need more trucks, do we need more salt, and what does more salt do to the groundwater? All of these challenges come in. But I'm going to leave it that OGRA is coming up at the end of March, and that's a good time. I think I look around to the council members that'll be in attendance for us to all find out what others are doing and how they're making what their best practices are, what the challenges have been, and what their successes have been. So I look to my fellow councillors for that. And once again, it's going to close off. I appreciate that the representation is here, highlighting how important this is. And thank you for the presentation. It was very fulsome. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Moving to Councillor Broad.
Yeah, thank you, Warden, and through you. And not a specific question, more of comments and maybe a takeaway. Duncan, I appreciate your presentation. Very well done, very thoughtful and detailed, so appreciate that. And thank you for all your fellow farmers that are here today. The Deputy Mayor and I, or Councillor St. Pierre, have engaged, obviously, over the past year with the Dundas Federation in a meeting and a bunch of follow-ups, and I believe that your strategy of the Agricultural Committee at the county level is a good choice to go and make those decisions thereof, because I think we all agree that we all have some common goals to get to, but how we get there, we've got to figure that piece out. But I think I'd like to stretch it out into other activities as well as things that in the in the forefront of what we've been thinking about from the ag community is emergency response and shared systems that we have at the lower tiers. One being grain rescue, et cetera, tractor rollers, et cetera, how we respond to those. Also, obviously, with the Ian Mudda Fund at the forefront in South Dundas, the fire response and how our fire departments respond to the farmers. Because this isn't all about roadside tree planting. This is about all the agricultural things that we need to work on. As a few of us have always pointed out, it's our biggest business, biggest industry, and we're happy to support that, including the forestry. But also importantly, a shared service back to us to understand what risks that they have. You know, what chemicals, what things do they bring to their property? What are they inherently bringing risk to our volunteer firemen, our community members as well. So I think that's a shared thing that this committee can work together on wholesomely. And finally, you know, we're always looking for more volunteer fire departments. So fire department members, what great way to integrate into our local tiers is to have more farmers in our committees, in our volunteer fire departments as well. So thank you, and looking forward to having a committee and moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Broad. Moving to Councillor St. Pierre.
Yeah, thank you, Warden, and thank you for the presentation, and I want to thank Phil for the presentation as well. Both was very enlightening. Yours was very detailed, so I appreciate that. I did ask a couple of the questions that you had answered. Admittedly, you know, we've had some discussions around the table about, I'll call it streetscape planting. And I think for the most part we wanted that because we thought it was something that would be a positive. We're realizing now that maybe it's not so much as a positive, and I'm in that as well. When I talked about the tree planting location of where is the proper spot to plant a tree where it doesn't have an effect on the crops. I mean, like I say, in land development, we got to plant a tree anywhere from 12 to 21 feet away from a house. Obviously, because because of the type of soils, it will impact the foundation. So if that type of science is there, there's science out there that'll say, well, in order not to affect your crop and your yield, we should be planting a tree 20 feet away or whatnot. So I think that should be part of the discussion. It will have to be part of the discussion on the advisory committee. As Councillor Broad had said, I think it's beyond just snow drifting. I think it's beyond just the yield. I think entranceways, firefighting, all of that needs to be put on the table, and it's going to take some time to go through a fulsome agenda and probably a couple years to go through a fulsome agenda for a council of the day to better understand how we can work together. Councillor Lang said a comment about being taken for granted a little bit, and I think he was saying that in a positive way. I think for me, as growing up, I think the old saying was, you leave the farming community alone because the farming community knows how to farm, as Mayor or as Councillor Fraser had said. But I think what we're doing, and not only the upper tier, the lower tiers are doing stuff that's having an impact as well. So I think having that discussion is warranted. Just a quick question, though, on your 30% reduction, and you threw out a number, I think it was about $6,400, round numbers, on a certain crop. I'm just wondering, again, neither here nor there, but I just wondered since you brought it up, insurance-wise, how does that in fact affect your insurance? Does it have a financial impact to your insurance? I mean, because I suspect there's a bigger picture here than just a $6,300 financial hit on your example that you gave. Thank you.
So just as a matter of clarification, are we asking about crop insurance or are we looking about liability insurance?
More crop insurance.
Crop insurance,
Yeah.
okay. So the way that so crop insurance is administered through the province, through the province's corporation called Agricor. And how Agricor deals with crop insurance, it looks at a 5-year average, right? So you might get a little bit of money the first couple of years, but as we know, those tree lines are long-term. You know, it's not something that's just there for 5 years, it's there for a lifetime. So as time progresses and you still have that production loss, your average that crop insurance uses to calculate what your minimum production should be is going to lower, you know, over time. So through crop insurance, no, we're not getting compensated for those production losses. We might be compensated in the first 5 years, but as those tree lines mature, get bigger, and that loss becomes larger and larger, our average that Agricor will use to make that calculation also goes down. So it's an even greater financial impact to our members. So I do appreciate the question. It's again, it's a very detailed and intricate conversation, and I'm glad that we're starting to have those conversations now. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further question on this side? See none. I believe Councillor McDonald wants to add one comment.
I think everybody has been thanked, but I wanted to, since he's here, Councillor McDonnell was the one who originally proposed the motion. So I'd like to thank him for bringing that to South Glengarry before coming here. So everybody being thanked. I do thank them all, but just Councillor McDonnell, Sam back behind there.
Thank you. So before we put it in, I know Mr. Ferguson had the opportunity to speak after you and maybe come back with some comments to your presentation. Is there anything on your behalf that you would like to add to this before we finalize?
Yep, thank you. Through you, Warden. So there was a lot of comments that were said today. It's we can certainly go through point by point if council wishes, or we can bring a report back, just sort of, again, confirming our point of view on the matter. I like that that Duncan's presentation dove into some of the aerodynamics over the tree lines, and I think that is an important piece of the conversation. The 35 to 1, which is setback distance to height, is sort of in most studies the most conservative setback distance that they sort of recommend. We're not disputing that fact. I guess from our point of view, this is something that we can control, and through our patrol supervisors, they're telling us that this is making a difference to the safety on our roadways, and we take that, with the utmost respect, because between those 4 patrol supervisors, there's 100 years of experience plowing and maintaining our roads. So I'll leave it to you, Warden, if you'd like a report back, or if you'd like us to comment on all of the points that Duncan made.
So I guess what I'm recommending, so I do fully agree. As Councillor Densha mentioned, North Stormont we did implement at the beginning of this term, where we do have our advisory committee that was formed. Has great value for both parties, so that if we have not concerns but looking for guidance, it's good to have so the experts talk to us on that. With that said, if we look on the other side as a member of council, we've got the farming community on one side. There's also the aspect of the increased winds that we're seeing, and residents coming to us saying, the farming community is taking down all those trees, the fence lines are being ripped down, which increases the wind. So we get that side where they're talking to us about planting trees and about keeping the tree cover at a certain percentage. So we're kind of pulled from both sides. What I think we can do out of respect, so there was part of your presentation where I feel the further away. So if we look at many snow fences that have been installed in the past, well, the snow fences are not in the road allowance. They're generally a distance into a farmer's field. Same thing so there's aspect where I kind of see from your presentation where we're going from, but there's also science from you guys understanding, and then species. So we could have trees which could be more of a deciduous tree that doesn't so the different species that are there might be a factor that, again, we can get help from Phil. At the end of the day, I think we can respect both sides, and for you guys to come together, the 10 feet on each side for farm entrances. I do understand the size of machinery now that take place, so that's something that could be brought up. On the other side, so a bit to defend, when we're talking headlands, farmers can kind of maybe say, but is generally headlands, you're giving us financial numbers. Are headlands usually not a little lower in yield versus often you'll drive down the road and you can see in the headlands where not as prominent, and then it just spruce up in the field. So there's, and maybe Duncan's shaking his head, I'm not a farmer, maybe there's, but it's just to come together with fair numbers, the road allowance mentioning about tree, if we expand on to the field by few having the cost to trim those trees. There's also, more so I think at the municipal level, but there's also areas where for years we have farming communities that are, in some of our communities we've had kind of, it goes right up to the 6 inches from the gravel. So there is kind of the potential where, hey, if it's there, farmers are using it, but it's, at the end of the day, I think it's just to both sides come together. We all know the dynamics where, yeah, you're going to farm what's there for you guys to farm, irregardless. We're not going to go and start taking 4 rows of corn just for the fact that, oh, the line's here. At the same time, it's respect on both sides. So I think if we can bring something forward at the next meeting for, and I'm not sure if it's how quick we want to do this, but to get representation, I think, from the 3 counties. So some layperson, members of council, administration. It's something that I could look at the administration if it's something that could be brought back and presented to council. I think that would be the first beneficial. Madam CAO, can you?
Through you, Mr. Warden. So I have also sent out an email to all of our partner counties in the EOWC to see if they do have an agricultural advisory committee. Some do, some don't, and also looking at terms of reference. As far as the composition of that group, looking at terms of reference, taking into consideration all of the comments that were made today, all of this to say we would like we would need some time. So it's not something that we'd be able to bring back hastily in the next month or two. I think we need to take it away and do a little bit of research, gather more information, try and come up with something that looks like it works. I think also too, if we're going to look at something like that, we probably would want to go back and also engage with the people that are here today. So all of this to say, we can look into that. A report can come back to council, but we need a little bit of time to do it properly.
Thank you. So yeah, I believe that there is more homework to do before we bring it forward. I think if it's something this council could bring forward and give direction as we move to establish something before or for our next term of council comes into place. So if other members want to add to that, I see Councillor Broaden.
Yeah, thank you, Warden. I just think that based on the request today, we should at some point at a future meeting shortly is discuss and make a decision on what we're going to do for 2026. We put it in our budget for roadside tree planting. If the suggestion is to suspend that until we have a committee, until we do all this communication, so it be, or we move ahead one or the other. I think we just should have that discussion in parallel to the administration working on a advisory committee.
Thank you.
Just since we don't want to create more problems while we're trying to fix problems.
Yeah. So before I move further, I'll look over to both roads and forestry. Is there timelines here that for our 2026 work that we need to kind of understand before we give directions here?
Yeah, I can speak to that, and thank you everyone for all your constructive comments and stuff, and we certainly take this, into our consideration for our operations of our programs. I also look after, I'm the county weed inspector as well, so I look after all the spraying programs and understand how beneficial that is, both on the county side of things, in controlling our noxious weeds, and then also assist with various aspects of the tree maintenance and stuff whenever it comes down to our operations. With respect to any timelines associated with that, I do want to clarify something that I had said in the presentation around the 2-week window. That's simply for the flagging of the site, and we can do that a month in advance. The website is posted now to see where those prospective locations for 2026 are, just in case there was any need for clarification there. Typically, our tree orders are placed towards the end of March, and we have had a number of lower tier municipalities looking to do some projects as well within their right of ways. So maybe this is a good opportunity, to finalize that. But yeah, it's around that end of March where we can get those sort of trees contract growing to reduce the cost. So I'll just wait for, suggestions as to what that looks like. And it will probably affect the ability to garner stock, and it just means an increased cost.
So with this year's program that we have set up now, is it something that communication is already taken place? Is it something that we should maybe deal in present time with that aspect, with the specific group as to where you are, and then bring the bigger picture back later in giving the administrative time to present something?
Yeah, we have nothing committed on order, so it's just comes down to that availability of whether that stock is available for planting in the fall. So whenever that decision is made, then we'll be able to pull the trigger, but it just affects the number of kilometers and how much windbreak we're able to achieve this year.
Before having a stock, though, has the discussions been had, the communication between the affected parties in the areas that are going to be affected in 2026?
Yeah, like those letters would go out to the affected landowners, and as I'd mentioned, the website's already live. It's showing those locations with that feedback form and the availability for anybody to comment on those locations. That's all. That is already available.
Okay. I'll take Councillor St. Pierre and then Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Warden. I really think we should just suspend it right for now until we get through further discussions. I think we shouldn't order anything. We can make a decision if we have to. If we're going to continue doing the tree planting, maybe we have to reduce it based on cost. But I think right now what I'm hearing around the council table, there's a little bit of uncertainty, and we should get a staff report, and we should have a further discussion, as Councillor Broad just said. So I think we should just suspend it for now until we have a fruitful discussion on how we're going to move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Williams and then Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I concur with Councillor Pierre and Councillor Broad on this. I just, rather than make a difficult situation worse, we should just not send any letters out and not decide to move forward until we've got more clear direction on what exactly we should be doing and how we should be doing it.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, I'll go along with that as well. Just a couple of things. I don't know what council wants to do. I guess we have options. We could either roll that 45,000 that we have in budget for that over, or I'm going to look at Phil Duncan there. I know the Chrétien property we acquired. There's a part of a field that needs to be planted. Have we budgeted money for that? Maybe that could be. If we do suspend this, maybe that money could still go into trees, but maybe in one of our forestry projects that needs to be planted that we've looked at for the future. And before I turn to get rid of the mic here, I'd just like to ask Cameron if maybe you could, and maybe you guys already have this, ask your patrol supervisors to just kind of, and maybe they do, keep notes. Like that one picture you had where the snow was blowing right across the hood of the, and the white, it's pretty well white out. I mean, sometimes you're going to get that because you're in the middle of the blizzard and it doesn't matter where your trees are, it's going to be white. But there are days where it's not snowing and you get that. I'd kind of like if we could kind of start a long-term, I don't know, document, just to kind of say, like, are we getting 10 days of this a year? Are we getting 5? I'm not sure, So just so we can kind of say, weigh the checks and balances. Is it worth putting this much money and this much aggravation to address 5 or 10 days? Or is it 20 days and we say it's more serious than we thought? Just to kind of have it for council's information that when you guys do come report, you say this is what we're actually addressing. The little skiff of snow on the road that drifts across, I'm not so concerned because we have 24-hour plowing at the counties. We have plows that are out and about all the time. It keeps them busy. I don't think those guys are going to want to lose their shift anyway, where we say we don't have any drifting anymore, so there's no more, we cut shifts. But anyway, I'm being a little sarcastic there. But anyway, if they could kind of keep track of that, so we know. I don't know if it's 5 or 10 days a year. I know I don't see it too often, but I'm not out every day.
So some have spoken. I'll go around the table, but first, Madam CEO, did you want to add something?
Through you, Mr. Warden, just wanted to speak to the meeting today as Committee of the Whole. So we do have some feedback from council around the table. We will bring a report back to council with respect to some of the feedback that we've heard this morning. That can be done prior to the planning of, potentially an agricultural advisory committee. So just wanted to speak about process, but that would be the process I would recommend.
Thank you. So seeing that, for the rest, maybe just a nod. Are we good with, for now, just putting a hold on it, waiting administration to come back with a report? Perfect. So with that said, I believe, well, I'd like to thank Mr. Ferguson. I think you represented your group well. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. It just shows if you come together, I think it brings a strong voice, and where we have to listen. So, and with staff, so if we can get a well-respected coming together with both parties, I'm sure we're going to come out of this with everybody's best interest at heart. So with that said, I believe we can move to the adjournment.
It's moved by Councillor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Broad, that the committee adjourn to the call of the chair.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried.